My name is Mark Ottobre. I've worked with Olympic athletes, champion competitors, world leaders, and helped transform tens of thousands of people's physique. In this video, we are going to show you how to hip hinge and how to think about the hip hinge to master it once and for all. We have Manami here who's going to be helping us today demonstrate some of the ways we're going to master a hip hinge. The first thing we're going to do in terms of looking at a hip hinge and considering it for a client or athlete, one of our controls, if you will, that we want to get is a simple assessment. And that assessment is, if you turn and face the wall, Manami, we are going to get you to reach down and touch your toes. So in this, just reach down, touch your toes as you would, and come back up. Right. So doing this with a client or athlete, they're thinking, okay, this is a flexibility test, except it's not a flexibility test. It's a movement assessment test. So what I'm really doing when I ask a client or athlete to do this is I'm looking at how they get there rather than their range of motion. So I'll get you to do that one more time. So how she gets there is she is moving from the hips. She's not moving from the back. She initiates, she pulls her hips back. They go on a diagonal axis up towards the roof. So if she was to move from the back, this is how it would look. She would round. She doesn't round. She sticks her hips up, and you can see the first thing to move are her hips. Now, for people who really struggle with this, it can be, and for personal trainers, it can be a real issue to try and teach their clients how to get into this position correctly. So I'm going to break down some really practical ways to do this, starting with the most regressed version. And the most regressed version of teaching a hip hinge is this. So Manami, I'm going to get you feet as they are, hands on your thighs. And what I want you to do is reach down and touch your knees. Reach down, touch your knees, and come back up. Great, I want you to do 10 of that. So for a client who moves from the back, and you can see Manami in this position, she's really moving from her hips, just move freely, do 10 reps. This is a really easy way to introduce the hinge, probably the most remedial way possible that you could get someone to introduce a hinge into their movement pattern in daily life. Now, if someone does move from the back, this is going to require probably 20 reps, 3 sets, multiple times a day. This is a step one. My next step would be this. So Manami, what I'm going to get you to do is put this stick on your spine. You're going to hold, that's exactly what I want. I want this to be flush to your head, so hold it to your head. This has to remain contact, and this has to have contact the whole time. So you have to keep contact here, and just bring that up a tiny bit, because I want, you've got to keep contact, right? So the stick is a stiffness for your spine. I want you to push your spine and your hand against the stick. Now I want you to stick your hips out into that hinged position. And you can see here, her hamstrings are elongating. Now, I want you to go, just keep going, because I want to show the wrong way. I want to show when the stick lifts off. So you can see here, the stick started to lift off, her back has started to round. That's obviously too deep a range of motion, but she's got great range of motion. She's got great mobility, so she's able to go pretty deep on this. Now, there you go, that's too far. We don't want to go there, right? We want to be stiff through our hamstrings. Just do another 3 of that. So on this is the next point of how we can teach our clients to get into a better hinge position. Now, most clients, again, if they're not used to this, they're not going to be able to go as far. And what is perfectly acceptable, if the stick comes off, come down, come down, come down. If the stick comes off here, that's where they stop. You need to read the play, because what you want to do is you want them to shift the weight onto their heels, keep coming down, shift the weight onto their heels, and getting their hips, keep that down, getting their hips working. Cool, so that's the next point. Now, from here, relax, we are going to go to the 45-degree hyperextension. So the ultimate goal would be a RDL or a stiff-legged deadlift. That's going to be the ultimate goal. But that is also the movement that requires the most skill. So we need to look at ways to regress this and movement patterns that are going to regress the hip hinge pattern. So I'm going to get you on the 45-degree leg extension, 45-degree back extension rather. Now, the pad should always sit underneath the hip. So where she is right now is perfect. And I'm going to get her to do the same thing. Now, I want you to do it just the wrong way for a second. Just kind of flop into it and use your back. Now, I know there's a lot of girls online, on Instagram who really, round out and just move from here and do a couple, they do this kind of thing, right? I really don't like that, and they say they're training glutes, because this really, we want to be training the hinge. So what I'm gonna get you to do is up nice and tall. Now come through that. So stick your hips up to the roof, keep the back locked. Now come up. And teaching that lumbar stiffness as we go into that hinge. We wanna keep that lumbar stiff. Now, one of the ways that I like to enhance this for newbies and create tension is, one moment, I grab some plates. These are just 1/2 kilo. So what I like to do is put these on your thumbs. Go, give me 2 thumbs. I'm gonna put them both like that. So back into position. So this is one of the ways I like to begin to teach this. So what she's gonna do, she's gonna come down, keep the lumbar stiff, keep the lumbar stiff, keep the lumbar stiff, come up, flex through your glutes. Now reach out to the, reach out. Here. That's where I want you, right? So, and then come back down all the way. So we call these Superman or Superwoman, and back in. And come up, flex the bum. So the reason why I like these so much is because it creates an automatic pause. They have to pause at the top to get in that position. They have to pause at the bottom to bring it in. So it's creating a movement where it automatically slows down the hinge, but it creates a lot of tension. So their backs begin to burn, but they achieve the right position. And they also achieve a little bit of thoracic extension as they move up with that lumbar stiffness. So this is really nice. This is my next point of call. I'll get you to rest for just a sec, put them on the floor. Just shake it out because we're gonna do another one. Now, I always like to stack patterns, and what we're working towards with all of this supplementary work for hip hinge is to put a bar in our back. So I like to use a stick. If they're strong enough, we'll use a bar. We could use an 8 kilo bar, we could use the female bar or the full Olympic bar. But we'll get into the position again, Manui. And I like this as the next progression rather than using a dumbbell, because what it does is it starts to begin to teach that lumbar stiffness with a bar, or in this case a stick on their back, as they're moving with a hinge position. So a lot of good things happen here. The other thing I really like to enhance is I like to get the arms as close as possible. And you can see on Manami, you can see her back, her lats start to engage. Now, go into the hinge. So, we're stacking things on top of each other. There's the lumbar stiffness, there's the hips, there's the elongation of the hamstrings, but we're not necessarily going to use this in someone's first phase if they can't do a correct hip hinge. However, this is fantastic to start to build strength because it's mimicking and creating what it would be like if someone had a bar on their back. And that is where we want to end people up. So this is a really good supplementary exercise. Again, you can absolutely put a bar on someone's back, and you can how's that feeling?
Yeah, it's burning.
Yeah, you can go heavy, you can go light, you can use a light bar, you can use a heavy bar. Let's give you a rest. Cool. You feeling that burn?
Yeah.
Where do you feel that burn?
Good.
Good. Good. And you can scale. You can scale with the weight. You can always use a lighter bar. Now, so this is our 45-degree hyper. The next, I suppose, advancement that I like to use is the 180-degree or horizontal back extension. This is a little harder than the 45. Apart from the resistance profile being slightly different and there being more tension at the top, this is harder because it requires more strength to get into that full horizontal position. So then we'll move to this. Let's hop up onto this.
Here?
So, yeah, let's just do a rep. I'll know straight away. We want this pivot point on, I'll show the camera,
like
this pivot point of her hips to be over the pad. So she's good, she's good. So it is over the hips. So you can see in this position, her hips are pointing directly up to the roof. So that's nice there. She gives 3 reps, and you can see, again, we are now still using a hip hinge, but it is in the reverse. So just do one more rep. A lot more emphasis here on the glutes and on the erector spinae as well. Help yourself up. Just give yourself a small rest. What I'm gonna do is we're gonna do that again, and this time I'm gonna put the stick on your back again, right? So you grab that. And you can see here the leverage point of this creates a lot It's a lot harder because the weight is shifted from her body, and the only pivot point, this has to be strong. To get into this full position, the glutes and the erector spinae have to work. So you do have to have a base level of strength. This exercise is not for beginners because it's too difficult. It requires strength at its base point. So that's where the 45 is better. Now she's rounding, she's getting tired. So I'll take this from her, We don't want to see that when people start to round out and flex. We want them to be tight the whole time. She's done a few reps. All right, how are you feeling? Now, all of this, by the way, is not the end point. This is all the supplementary and peripheral work. The end point is to get someone to be able to do a deadlift. The end point is to get someone to get strong through this movement pattern. So we're gonna go over here and I'll show you where we're pushing people towards. We're not gonna load you, so don't worry. We're not gonna go heavy at all. We're just gonna use the bar. But the end point is absolutely to improve someone's deadlift. Now, one of the things that can help improve a deadlift is an RDL, a stiff-legged deadlift. Now, fun fact, Romanian deadlift, a true Romanian deadlift, is really a snatch grip deadlift or a wide grip. This is your true Romanian deadlift because Romanian deadlifts come from the Romanian weightlifting team, and that's how the Romanian weightlifting team did their deadlifts, hence RDLs. So a stiff-legged deadlift, Romanian deadlift, it's sometimes a little bit of semantics, and sometimes people don't know the origins exactly where it comes from, but Romanian deadlifts traditionally were done with a snatch grip. Now on that point, a snatch grip, fun fact, a snatch grip should be in the position where if I bend my knees, the bar doesn't move. So you can see here, in this position, the bar doesn't move from my pelvis. If I move here, as I move down, you can see how the bar slides on my legs. So here, it stays in that groove. That's my snatch grip deadlift. So if you're talking about where should your hands be on a snatch grip, it should be in a position where if you're in here and you bend your knees, the bar shouldn't move. So for me, it's fairly wide. We are just gonna do what I would call a stiff-legged deadlift. So clean grip, just clean grip, there's good. And let's look at your movement pattern, get nice and close when you lift, and step out. Now, we're gonna do everything that we spoke about with the hinge. The only difference here is you have a bar in your hands. So, hips to the roof, keep your head straight, keep the spine locked. That's beautiful, right? That is a hinge. Now, in this position and with a bar in our hands, we're able to sufficiently load it where we're gonna be able to get hamstring growth, erector spinae growth, glute development, posterior back development. There's a lot of great things in this position that we can start to load. So really load onto those heels. But you can see that where we started from was no load, no weight, very, very remedial, using the supplementary exercises around it to build the strength and musculature around the structures that are needed for a stiff-legged deadlift. Rack it in. And again, I would also say the stiff-legged deadlift, and in this exercise, this still isn't the end point. The end point is a big deadlift, it's a big squat. This movement pattern helps other movement patterns that we use in everyday life for performance. For example, jumping. The hip hinge and I think the Romanian deadlift in many ways, or the stiff-legged deadlift, it's kind of the mother lift of the lower body in many ways because we go through hip extension in so many movements. If we're jumping, if we're deadlifting, if we're squatting, that hip hinge is integral. So developing it with your clients, developing with athletes really is such an important piece of someone's athletic potential development. So in saying all of that, if you've enjoyed this video, if you have any questions at all, leave them in the comments below and consider subscribing to my channel. Want more videos to learn how to build your superhuman? Click here or here.